AEW is great. I don't care, man. I know it's not perfect, and I know there are things to work through, but ultimately, when I look at the wrestling landscape, I give it a couple of thumbs. The scary thing is, All Elite Wrestling isn't new anymore. It's almost 6 years old the day I record this video, at least on its way to be. Scares the life out of me. It reminds me that one day I'm going to be dead. It's also wonderful because it means the promotion now has some experience under its belt, which means every now and then they've got into trouble. Not like bad trouble, but funny trouble, because once again, that's just what happens when you do exist. So hello, I am Simon Miller. Let's take a walk down memory lane and go, that was very silly. Pretend Jake Roberts used a real snake. So when Jake Roberts first debuted and verbally assaulted Cody Rhodes, I think we were all pretty excited, especially if you were a nerd old school fan. You're like, wow, it's the Jake of Snake of old. He is not called Jake of Snake. He also promoted a brand new client, which was of course Lance Archer. I actually thought these two guys had quite good chemistry. It's kind of a shame it came to an end, but at the same time, we keep on saying it. We must feature new faces. At one point though, all the feuds did get mixed up, so not only did you have Jake and Lance going after Cody, but Britt Baker was going after Brandy Rhodes. That's when, we kind of made a little bit of a mistake. So after Britt and Brandy had got into it and Brandy had been left laying, Jake did cover her in a way he never should have done. That was totally wrong. But also, he got out his very real snake, which now sounds terrible. It's not a euphemism, I'm talking about the animal, and he threw it on her. Listen, I get we did that back in the day, but in 2020, whatever the flub it was, well, it probably shouldn't have done it. Jake talked about this on his podcast too, and it was Warner that had said, listen, I don't 100% think this is the direction we should be going in. And I get it, man. Again, we have evolved as a species, ironically. If nothing else, you gotta protect the snake. I've no idea what Brandy Rhodes thought about this either. I mean, what if she was like Indiana Jones? And she didn't like snakes to begin with. Number 9, Chris Jericho smokes a cigar. Very early on, when Dynamite was but a baby, we had this really good angle when the Inner Circle tried to break Dustin Rhodes' arm, because of course it was tying into the big Chris Jericho and Cody Rhodes world title match. The older brother sold this so well, as did Jim Ross on commentary, and do not forget, this was a major story trying to get brand new fans through the door. Because at the time it was like, wow, we haven't seen anything like this for ages. And yes, the stipulation about Cody never challenging for the World Championship again was a little bit silly, but you live and learn. The American Nightmare, of course, soon arrived to help his sibling, but Jericho was so proud of his work, he did actually light a cigar, and he started smoking it. I don't think he was Le Champion then, but he was on his way. It was a wonderful asshole move, though. Somebody else that didn't agree was once again the television network, because as Christopher told Stephanie Chase, when the TNT executives saw that, they called AEW and was like, maybe you don't want to break the law and smoke on television. Never did it again. Number 8, that rat pulled by Max Caster. Now listen, let's not pretend otherwise. At one point, one of the highlights of AEW were Max Caster's raps. He was doing a good job. And he went off the rails in 2021. Because mostly when you do drop bars like this, you always want to be punching up and not kicking downwards. Because when you do that, it can just feel a little bit mean. So when Max did indeed say that the Acclaim have been kicking ass for miles, and we ain't gonna claim mental health like Simone Biles, I was like, well, I don't think that should have come out of your mouth. I mean, again, just be nice to her. There's also a Duke lacrosse line, which I'm not going to get into here, but once again, let's just say we went way over the line. And there was some other stuff too, and all of it, when you do go back and listen to it, well, let's just say it was not kosher. Now, Max did get suspended, and the general feeling was that we had gone too far. But look, as long as we do live and learn, everything will be okay. Number 7, Brawl Out. So nobody actually knows what happens after CM Punk's infamous 2022 All Out promo, unless you are CM Punk, Kenny Omega, or the Young Bucks, or some other witnesses that were watching. Now, there was definitely a fight, but all the rumors got out of control instantly, because some people say that a door was knocked down, other people said poor Larry the dog got injured, which would not be cool. There apparently was some biting going on, and it was just not good for AEW PR at all, especially after a pay-per-view. You want your audience to be talking about the event. Now, of course, the trouble here is that everybody did get suspended as an investigation was launched, but surprise, surprise, Warner also got on the phone. They wanted to know what the flub was going on. Fightful were the people that reported this and just said they weren't necessarily happy, and you wouldn't be. Like, it doesn't matter if you own the company or not own the company. If this is airing on your network, well, you want things to be as peaceful as possible, and there's a reason we all talked about this for so long. It's totally unhinged. Number 6, Sting's debut. So this is one of my favorite debuts ever, because do not forget, Sting debuted in AEW in Daly's Place during the pandemic, and even though there was only a scattering of fans in that building, due to COVID, it sounded like it was 10,000 strong. That is the damn power of Sting. AEW deserved more credit as well, because like an idiot, I had no idea this was coming. But actually, when you go and watch all the build and the winter is coming tagline and the snow, which tied into Sting's entrance, well, that was right there. Now, as a fan, I am over the moon they kept this a shot, because again, I leapt out of my chair. But once again, Warner rang up AEW and was like, you brought Sting to the company and you didn't advertise this beforehand? I mean, again, it's not like the strangest thing in the world. Maybe if more people had have known, they would have tuned in. I mean, go look at his retirement. Now, there was some worry at the time because apparently the edict was now everybody has to get mentioned, but that didn't go down. And actually, fair play to AEW. I think they strike a good balance. Number 5, Matt Hardy is knocked out. All Out 2020 was cursed, I swear, because not only was the Florida humidity so high, the wrestlers were struggling, but Cash Wheeler in his tag team match almost lost an eye, or at least he couldn't see. That's horrible. Seemingly this was just one of those nights, because eventually we also got to the Broken Rules match between Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara. And honestly, this one went out of control. Because as they did tussle on a cherry picker before taking this horrible fall to the floor, you could see that Matt's head smacked right into the concrete, and the way he looked afterwards, I ain't kidding, my friends, if you never have seen this, it was really scary. Now, of course, wrestling has been based on a bunch of traditions for years, and the idea has always been, well, even if you do get knocked a bit loosey-goosey, we better keep going. But again, everyone and their dog was like, please, can somebody please protect Matthew Hardy? Now listen, I wrestle too, and I have been guilty of this as well. You just want to carry on, because again, that's the idea you get in your brain. But the AEW medical community, I suppose, or whatever you want to say, did get into a little bit of trouble here, mostly because a lot of fans were like, yep, let's not do that again. Now, I do think you have to give a shout out to all these people, because they did sit down and they reevaluated how we do communicate these things. So next time, if a wrestler is in danger, we can just stop the match and move on. Really though, this comes down to the industry as a whole, and I suppose you can argue it both ways, but don't forget, health and happiness is the most important thing in the world. I wouldn't even care if a referee got in the ring and goes, we're stopping this thing, because look, somebody needs help. Number 4, when Jungle Boy said pussy. I mean, there's a great headline, sums up wrestling. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube. We do all know that AEW loves the word shit though, and we'll get to that in just one second. And for a while, they replaced it with bitch. Though actually, that's an industry-wide thing. Wrestling promotions love the word bitch. We also get the occasional especially if you are The Rock. So I think one day Jungle Boy just went, well listen, I want to be creative here. He called Christian Cage a pussy. This was during the build to their All Out match. Jungle Boy even came out the following week with a t-shirt that said Christian is a, I won't say it again. Surprise, surprise. Warner got in touch and went, no, that ain't happening, kill it. Now that is fair, because again, if you're trying to appeal to a wider audience, well, you probably shouldn't call someone the P word. But let's not pretend it's not funny. It's a little bit funny. Number 3, the excessive swearing. And it does all tie in because yes, this did get out of hand back in 2021, especially when Chris Jericho was making his entrance and Dan Lambert was so annoyed about this, he must have said the S word 4,722 times. Then later on, there was a back and forth between Bryan Danielson and Don Callis, and they said it another 476 times. It really did turn into that famous South Park episode. The Wrestling Observer reported that Warner had Rackham and said we need to calm this down. Although AEW's Will Washington told Fightful that's not true. We were the ones that actually told the wrestlers you are going way too far. And essentially, a lot of them were going in business for themselves. Now, I really am sure both are true. I'm sure AEW and Warner did chat about this. And Warner probably went, yeah, look, we agree with you. Please sort it out, otherwise we'll have to chat again. That really is way better now, because when it comes to these kind of words, less is more. We've talked about it a lot. But once again, let's not pretend it's not funny, because deep down we're all children. It's like when you were back in school and you think your parents were around, so you started saying the S word. You looked in the corner and you saw your mum. You were like, Number 2, that chair shot. So really overall, this is an industry-wide conversation again, because over the last few years, the chair shot to the head has made a very interesting comeback. Now once again, I'd rather wrestlers were healthy and well, because once again, they are going to retire from the ring. You never know what foibles are going to come up. But yeah, when AEW was getting going, we had a Cody Rhodes versus Shawn Spears feud. And man, one day on Fyter Fest, Shawn grabbed a chair and he walloped Rhodes right in the head. Now, it did turn out this weapon had been gimmicked, but again, it is a live scenario, and essentially the angle of the already gimmicked chair hit Cody in such a way that he was bleeding like crazy, and he needed a bunch of stitches. The trouble here actually came from the fans once again, because we do know about CTE. Listen, I can look at both sides here. If you think you do have a chair that isn't going to hurt anyone, well, I guess you can give it a go. But on the other end, it did hurt someone, so I'm going to be that guy again. Just please be careful, everybody. I don't want to be your dad. I also understand the argument that it should be down to the individual, but that's why the people at the top of the promotion should just send out a rule. Let's not smash each other in the head if we don't have to. Number 1, the Dark Order angle. So no one agrees with me, and that's totally fine. Life is about opinions, my friends. When the Dark Order did debut in AEW, the internet wrestling community at large went absolutely crazy. And no, look, this wasn't executed very well, but did I think the reaction was a little bit overboard? Yes. It came after the Young Bucks and SCU main event. At one point, the Dark Order even reached into Matt Jackson's mouth and ripped out his tongue. And of course, we got those punches from a creeper, and because they weren't very good work punches, it meant he had to be eviscerated. And look, once again, in terms of what we delivered here, it wasn't the best, and also because AEW was brand new, there are a bunch of fans who are like, I don't want to see stuff like this. It's too much like WWE. In many ways, this is what made that whole AEW WWE tribalism worse as well, because WWE fans would use this as a AEW sucks. So AEW fans then went and found WWE clips and went, oh yeah, well look what we got. It absolutely does go down though, and that's why wrestling does rule. You can throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, and then usually 9 times out of 10, you have another show right around the corner, so you can just try again. But yeah, in terms of getting into trouble, fans were really, really mad. Now, of course, I'm sure you can think of other times this happened to AEW, so make sure you do drop me a comment below. And again, it's meant to be a fun video. Don't get all like negative Nancy down there. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which is me talking about AEW again. Otherwise, my friends, I appreciate you. See you soon.